Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Today we're going to talk about a particular favorite of mine. This is my 1966 Corvair Yenko Stinger. Now, if you're not familiar with the Yenko Stinger, there was a guy named Don Yenko, and a lot of people called him the Carroll Shelby of Chevrolets. He took Chevrolets and did for them what Carroll Shelby did for Ford and Mustang and Cobra. You've probably heard of the Yenko Camaros, the Copo cars, the central office production order cars with the 427s. But a lot of people are not familiar with these. These were his very first race cars, for lack of a better word. Well, they were race cars. He ordered 100 Corvairs from Chevrolet, and Chevrolet gave him his own serial numbers. This is serial number 54. He did them all in white. Those were the American racing colors, the white and blue. The engines were modified, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Now, normally when I buy a car, we usually get something that's a little rough, and we like to redo it in our shop. But these don't come up for sale very often, and this was a real, genuine car. So I thought I'd bring the man in who I bought the car from a while back. His name is Jeff Guzzetta. He's a fireman, and he did just a beautiful, beautiful restoration. We really didn't have to do anything to this car at all. Jeff, come on in. Hey, nice to see you again.
How you doing, Jay? Good to see you again.
Thanks. I went down to see the car, and it was exactly as advertised. And you know, I mean, so many cars, you put them on the rack and you go, oh, this is terrible. But very honest guy. He's a fireman. Firemen are honest. And he did just a beautiful, beautiful job. Tell me what kind of shape the car was in when you got it.
When I bought the car, I was the third owner of the car, and it was pretty rusted. It was in Indianapolis. The floors, it was a Fred Flintstone car. There was basically carpet between your feet and the floor.
Right.
And the suspension, the front suspension in particular, was about ready to fall out. Totally original though, but it was not one that you could leave original and drive it.
Right.
So it just completely needed to be redone, but it was all here 100% authentic with a trail of paperwork that goes all the way back to day one.
Yeah, you know, it's real easy to fake these cars, just like there's a lot of fake Shelby GT350s. But the Shelby, you need to get the CSX number, and this one, you need to know if it was one of the original 100 cars. But thankfully, there are people like this gentleman here. This is Charlie Dorge. He wrote a book called Don Yenko and the Yenko Stinger. This is the Bible if you're looking for one of these cars. Or even if you have a regular Corvair and just want to find out how to hop it up. It's a terrific book, and he's one of the keepers of the flame, one of the guys who exposes the phony cars. Sometimes you'll see a Corvair painted white with blue stripes, and they'll call it a Yenko. But he knows where the hidden serial numbers are. You get this book, and it'll tell you how to track that down. You kept a nice paper trail, which he was kind enough to give me with the car. We'll show you how that works when you buy an old car, especially something like this, which is rare. If you have all the documentation, it really makes the car hold its value and keep its value. But let's talk about what the Yenko is. The difference between a regular Corvair is, well, one is this here, right?
Yeah, that's the sail panel. Don Yenko had that put in. There's a couple of theories as to why he did that, one of which was to stiffen the car up. This car was built for road racing.
Right, right. And this is what they call a stage 2. Now, the stage 1 had the standard Corvair engine, what, it took the 110 and made it 140 horsepower.
Correct.
And then the stage 2 was 190 horsepower.
Correct, yeah.
And then there was a stage 3, which was racing only.
Right.
And that was what, 220?
Around 220.
220, and then there was even a stage 4, which was, oh my God, that's way too fast. Yeah. Yeah, but this is a wonderful road car. You know, I don't think it's unfair to call it a poor man's Porsche 911 because you have a flat 6 like a Porsche. You've got 4 carburetors. This is probably the most European car that General Motors has ever built. A lot of people put down the Corvair. I consider it one of the 10 best General Motors cars of all time because it's just so different from anything else they built. They really handle. They really drive nicely. They're a lot of fun. What else did you have to do to this car?
Well, started from the ground up. Besides all the rust restoration, which I didn't do, I actually had done.
Right, right.
Had it painted, had it reupholstered, had a lot of the original parts put back into it, and then took it and had the engine completely rebuilt.
Right. Now, what did you do to the engine?
We did a little bit of mild upgrades to it,
Right.
but nothing that couldn't really be undone. We just kind of modernized it a little bit to give it a little bit more dependability. But tried to keep it, we only went one over, so it could still be taken road racing if,
Right.
you know, and meet specs. But we really didn't do a whole lot outside of it. We tried to keep it as original as possible.
Now, the only thing that's not Don Yenko would be, these are larger wheels.
Correct.
These are 15s. The car came with 13s, which
Yes.
are essentially wheelbarrow
Yeah.
wheels. But this has the stock brakes.
Yes.
Everything else this is drum brakes all around. Remember, we're talking 1966. But very light front end. But let me show you what a beautiful job he did. Let's open the hood here. As you can see, he did just a beautiful job. Look how clean it is there. And these did come with the dual master, didn't they?
Don Yenko put the dual master in it,
Don-
and there's a theory that he used a Cadillac dual master cylinder.
That's right.
for
This is off a Cadillac. I think that was the first year of dual master
Yes.
cylinder for Chevrolet. But as you can see, nicely done. All the original type finish, original bottle, everything nicely done. You know, I think it's just such a fabulous looking car, especially for 1966. You know, there's no grille in the front, which you never saw in an American car. That was like, what? You know, I drove my other Corvair to work one day, and I saw some younger guys looking at it, and they thought it was some kind of Carmen Ghia. They thought it was some kind of European car. Let's go around the back and show them the engine. First of all, something the regular Corvair did not have. This trunk lid is fiberglass with these vents to allow more cool air in. I think they look, I leave them open all the time.
I always did.
Yeah, I think they look really cool. Let's open up the hood and show them what we got under here. Okay, this is about as far from anything American as you could get at the time. 4 carburetors, flat 6 engine, 164 cubic inch, which is really tiny by American standards. The only thing I did recently was replace the fuel pump. You know, modern gas, especially here in California, has this stupid ethanol in it, and it eats through the diaphragms. If you notice there's a lot of car fires lately, especially older cars, it's usually because the ethanol is eaten through the fuel lines or eaten through the diaphragm. It drips all over the place, the car catches fire. It's really terrible, so hopefully they'll go back to real gasoline someday, but I don't think that's going to happen. But as you can see, nice clean engine bay. Jeff did just a terrific job. Anything else you want to tell us about this?
Just the original air cooler or
Cleaners.
are the chrome cleaners. We had re-chromed. We tried to use everything we could originally in the
Right.
car. And try to put it back just the way it was, minus the spare tire, because Don had moved him to the front.
Now, I don't know what breather you had on it. I put that one on because that what other breather on there was sort of, it was throwing oil all over the place. It wasn't breathing properly. So that's kind of a modern breather, but that one just breathed the most. So it's kept the engine bay pretty clean. But it's very Porsche-like. I mean, that gets the Porsche guys really upset, but these won a lot of races back in the 60s. Don Yenko did pretty good. As I mentioned, he's got the 15-inch wheels. You know, he really wanted to make his cars different from standard Corvairs, so he went, was it to J.C. Whitney?
Yeah, I believe so.
He went to J.C. Whitney and bought these Grant wood-like steering wheels. I think they were like $15.99 a piece, something like that. And I love it, actually. You know, it's got a proper 4-speed transmission, and AM radio, AM/FM radio. But before we take it for a ride, let me show you some of the comprehensive paperwork that Jeff kept on this car. It's pretty cool. As I mentioned earlier, this is Don Yenko and the Yenko Stinger by Charlie Bud George. This is his book. And every car is in here. Every car is accounted for. For example, we just went to car 54. That's mine. Year 66, date of sale, tag, VIN number, who owned it. The options on it were the Yenko engine, Michelin X tires, 389 positive traction. Now later changed to 355 variant, correct? Yeah. Heater, defroster, all the original owners. History of the car, repair bills. It's really comprehensive, and it's just nice to have because when you sell it to the next guy, you can prove it's not a clone. And Jeff has done a wonderful job keeping all this stuff. This is my favorite one here. This is Don printed up his own tech manual, it's called. It says safe at any speed it handles. That was kind of a shot at Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed. I got to go with Don Yenko. I think they're just fabulous cars. And there's a regular Corvair owner's manual in here as well. Some of the old bills are fun to look at. Some of these date back to 1967. Replace clutch and flywheel, $36.10. It's not bad, $36.10. let me show you how bad a negotiator Jeff is. He writes to the guy, I know we talked money on the phone. I want to make sure I don't feel I'm going to hold you the price we spoke of. I'll pay more if you want me to. Okay, well, that's, yeah, you deal like me. Yeah, that's, don't let the wife see a letter like this. Okay, don't let the wife. But he wanted the car so bad. Like, I know we agreed on this price, but I'll give you more. That's
when you only find one and you've
Yeah,
been searching
yeah.
a year and a half.
Yeah, it's a good negotiating point. Whatever he's asking, offer him more and say, is that enough? Yeah, I can spend hours looking through all this kind of stuff, but it just kind of bonds you with the vehicle, and it gives you a sense of history that goes with the car. And when you have that serial number, you know yours is number 54. There's only 100 of these,
Yeah.
and that's it's a pretty exclusive club. But see, it says Yenko Stinger. That's the original one that came on the car. It was a little far gone, and he was smart enough to kind of, would you use a heat gun to get it off and keep it for the book, and then of course new reproduction ones were made. So that shows you the level of detail he's gone to here. Really, really nice. But just a wonderful car, and a nice handling car as well. Just handles really, really nice. In fact, let's take it for a ride. If the Americans built a Porsche, this is what it'd be like. You know, when Ed Cole designed the Corvair, he studied the Tatra. You know, that's the air-cooled Czechoslovakian car. He studied the Volkswagen. He studied the Porsche. So there's a lot of European influence in this car. You know, they really are fun to drive. And Corvairs are probably one of the few really true low-price collectibles that are out there. You won't find a Stinger very cheap because these are pretty exclusive, and they were racing cars, and they're fairly rare. How many exist out of the original 100? Do you know? Any idea?
I think it's in the high 60s to low 70s.
Okay, because a lot of them were damaged, but there's a lot of fakes out there too. That's why you got to go with Charlie's book. It kind of tells you what's real and what isn't. Did you put many miles on it?
Not many. I bought it with maybe 1,000 miles,
Yeah.
1,200. The mileage is original, 54, 55,000, right in there. It's
56,000, yeah.
Yeah, I think I bought it with 54, so I put a couple grand on it.
You know, air-cooled cars are great because they can sit for a long time. There's no corrosion. Sometimes some of the other cars that I have that are water-cooled, unless I'm using that waterless coolant, you get a lot of corrosion inside and around the water hoses and around the clamps. But it's kind of fun. Volkswagens, Corvairs, they can sit for a year and a half, 2 years, no problem at all. You know, they built 1.8 million Corvairs, and that was considered a failure. It was considered a failed car. You sell 1.8 million of anything now, you'd be president of the company. I love grabbing my $15.99 wood simulated steering wheel. You know, it almost feels like power steering because the front end is so light. That's why you want to run maybe 16 or 18 pounds pressure in the front of one of these. You know, back in the day, people would run 35 like it was a normal car, and got a little too skittish.
And most people that know what it is don't think it's real.
Yeah. You know, it's sort of a paradox. You got incredibly light steering and incredibly hard braking. No booster on the brakes and drums, so you got to use a lot of pedal pressure to get it to stop. I remember when I was a kid, guys would drive these with the string back gloves, smoking a pipe, the little cap, you know, the whole deal. Very European. Pulls pretty good.
Oh, it pulls really good. Yeah.
Just like a McLaren F1, no power steering, no power brake, no traction control, no boosters, just basic motoring. As you can see, it's basically a two-seater. There's no back seat. Headlights are here, washers are here, speedo, clock, cylinder head temperature, gas gauge, vacuum manifold. And of course, tachometer here. Radio, simulated wood finish. As you can see, there's a long throw between gears. .355 rear ends are a nice compromise. I think a 389 is a little high for for a freeway, and 323 is a little low. Well, very cool. I want to thank Jeff for selling me this car and doing such a nice job on the restoration. You know, I always say when you buy a collector car, if you buy a car from a guy that's in a club or knows the history and has all the paperwork, you're always going to get a good deal. Plus, firemen are pretty honest anyway. So, Jeff, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, Jay. Pleasure.
See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.